Welcome to the American Business Podcast. I'm Kevin Deveci, your host, and welcoming you episode 90. Well, as you can tell, we are getting closer to our goal of this year today. We like to make sure we have streamed 100 episodes this year, and today we have the 90th episode, and we are very, very excited. And today's number is 13 million. 13 million people are employed by more than 239,000 manufacturers in the US. Manufacturing is important for US, and that's a backbone of the economy. And this number is also showing that. And as you know, we have a great partnership with missionstatements.com. And we have the quote of the day powered by missionstatements.com. The only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. We'll keep continuing our partnership with missionstatements.com, and we'll keep bringing you inspirational quote of the day in the American Business Podcast episode. The American Business Podcast is the voice of American business, and we bring you experts, professionals from different fields to make sure we are sharing an educational, informative business content with you. Today we have a great guest. I'll invite our guest, and we'll get the conversation started. Hello, William. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us in your busy schedule. How was your weekend?
It was good. It's actually now Tuesday morning in Singapore, so we're about one extra day further into the future. But I will be home soon in Chicago for Thanksgiving in a few weeks. I'll be flying back in time. So I'll definitely be a day before for a little while and then heading back over to Singapore after that. So I go into the future as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's very exciting. So let me think. I think you are our first guest connecting from Singapore to the American Business Podcast. So that's a first. We always welcome connections from international listeners as well as experts. But today Amazing. Is also something. Yeah, Singapore is also a great place. I've been there years ago. It was very nice, clean, organized. That's what I remember, and they have a very vibrant business community. That's what I remember from my last trip.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going on 16 years here. I love it, but it's also extremely hot. I haven't necessarily adjusted to the temperature, which is why air conditioning is always a necessity out here. But yes, it's a great society, great business world here, and it's just overall become a second home for me.
That sounds great. Well, why don't we get started? And as a start, would you please introduce yourself and your organization to our audience and to our listeners?
Absolutely. Well, my name is William Gilchrist. I am the founder and CEO of Consig Private Limited. We are headquartered in Singapore. We expand globally. Pretty much, we do end-to-end sales as service. We're more commonly known as sales mercenaries for tech companies. Our main focus has been tech, but over the last 9 years, we've focused on a variety of different industries as well, but predominantly our portfolio is in technology companies.
Can you tell us about your career path a little bit? How did you get started? How your career path has unfolded over the years?
Wow. Well, I'm a career salesman, and as most salespeople will tell you, you don't necessarily get up, go to school to say, gee, I'm going to be a salesman when I grow up. Usually these things kind of happen to you, right? You know, there are degrees in marketing, there's degrees in engineering, there's degrees in law, but there's no degree in sales, right? That's not like really a degree. Like
absolutely. Good point.
But it's
Yes.
usually something that kind of happens to you when you start to see an opportunity, and then getting the skills from there kind of happen thereafter, by making a ton of mistakes. So I was born and raised in Olympia Fields, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. I went to Bowdoin College undergrad, majoring in international relations and minoring in Chinese politics. My main focus at that time was that I was going to be working for the government. Um, when I was a kid, I actually lived in China for a year because I was a student ambassador. So after I graduated from Bowdoin, I actually moved directly to China, and I was teaching public school. And then after that, I got into a media relations company. So I was doing media relations for a few years in Shanghai. And then I realized that I couldn't speak Chinese. So I ended up moving to Beijing, went to Beijing University, got my graduate diploma in Chinese. And right around that time, I ended up down in Singapore where I got into the sales world. And that's working for a company called TSL Marketing, where I was doing lead generation sales specifically. So, lead generation, the pre sale component. So, not the full closing yet, for large tech companies as a contractor under TSL. And then that kind of led me to Google, where I was in Google for 5 years, on the sales floor. And then also I was head of knowledge for a faction of Google, which was ETO faction. And right around that time, I started getting the itch to start my own thing, but I didn't really have the courage to do it. Went into the startup world, and worked there for a few years, and then started Consig in 2017.
It is quite a journey.
Very
Very
long
inspiring.
one. Very long one.
So when you look at your day-to-day work on daily basis, what are the exciting and challenging parts of your work on each day?
Well, there's never a boring day at the office when you're talking about sales, right? Um, so when it comes to excitement, there's always things that are exciting, but they're not necessarily always good excitement. But you're always fine tuning your skill sets. You're always interacting with different people. You're always dealing with different personalities, different cultures, different technologies is very exciting. We have a very large portfolio, and to be able to see so many different cybersecurity companies or service companies, consultancies, and their unique spin on things and their angles, and to try to get market response. It is so much fun to be able to unpack all of these different type of companies and their creations, and then trying to really get it out there into the market and be able to get some revenue for them, but more so product adoption and idea adoption. That's exciting. Challenges go right alongside with everything I just said, because with everything I just mentioned comes probably double the amount of challenges, right? Managing sales cycles, managing a business, right? I got into this thinking I was going to be a salesperson. I realized I'm a business owner. I run a business. I don't necessarily do the sales. So that in itself also can be a bit of a challenge, because now I'm the coach on the sidelines watching my players play. So those are some challenges as well.
So I have two follow-up questions, but one of them will be in terms of business culture. Um, this is a bonus question. So,
Sure.
in terms of business culture, how do you see the difference between American work culture, business culture, and also Singapore or Asian business culture in general?
Very common question. And it's probably one of the more common questions that people ask us when it comes to us operating in different markets and being truly global 24/7, right? Um, there is no culture that doesn't like value. A value proposition is a value proposition. Doesn't really matter what culture you're from. It doesn't really slow things down. So a lot of times when it comes from a sales perspective, in general, value is universal. That crosses all cultural boundaries. The only differences is how someone can take action on the value that they hear. So let's say in the US, for instance, a mid-level manager can probably sign off and make a decision on a value that they hear. In Singapore, this would need to go up a few levels above, and there would need a higher level executive with a bigger title to be able to at least sign off on it. Whether or not they heard the value or not, you still need their approval. In places like Japan, you're going to need like practically the founder of the large enterprise to sign off on anything. So it really depends on the buying structures that I see that are differences. But when it comes to from a sales side, I mean, frankly, it's all universal.
And when you look at businesses, what type of sales cycle, sales process management challenges that you have been observing?
Well, more often than not, what's happening over the last, I would say, 15 years is that the emergence of, no offense, the podcast, the emergence of the blog, the emergence of YouTube coaching, right, has given people a false sense of understanding in terms of what it takes to actually sell something. Carey Institute did a study a few years ago that 92% of all founders and CEOs have never been on a sales floor before. So the assumption is, I believe my product is great, so everybody should think my product's great. That's not necessarily the case. I care about my product, so everybody should care about my product. Not really the case. Also, at the same time, my sales cycle should be XYZ from the beginning, whatever that number is. And that's also not the case either. So, what we have found is that oftentimes a lot of companies are aware of what their sales cycle should be. Sometimes it's vetted, sometimes it's not. And if they do have a sales cycle in mind, we often ask them, well, how do these deals come about? And usually it's through, networks or a friend, and that doesn't really count for a sales cycle. But a pure cold outreach, like that person had no idea who you were 2 weeks before and you're closing them, how long did that really take? But more importantly, on top of that, how long did it take for you to actually get the call? So everyone talks about sales cycles, but nobody's actually talking about prospecting cycles. And a prospecting cycle to actually get the call could take you 6 months, and you close them a month after that. So that's actually a 7-month cycle, right? From outreach to pitching to closing to billing to getting a contract signed. But everybody always likes to look at that month as their sales cycle, when in reality, no one's considered the prospecting cycle and what it took to actually make that thing happen. And those are some of the major things that I see in the market that people are missing, that we try to shorten a lot of those timeframes for them on their behalf.
What are the best practices in terms of sales cycle, sales process building for an organization in general? I'm sure it differs from organization to organization in terms of details, but fundamentally, how would you describe it?
Well, first, be realistic. I think that that's the overall theme of sales in general, is to be kind of true to yourself in terms of what you know and what you don't know about how this thing closes. Everyone closes 2 deals and suddenly they're the Wolf of Wall Street, right? They're oh yeah, no, I've closed deals, so now I know. It's like, not really. You haven't closed it at scale, right? You haven't closed it in multiple markets at scale, ongoing. And not a lot of people look at those particular metrics to be able to identify what their process is. Everybody's selling patterns, selling style, selling tactics are unique, and that's a good thing. And every company is unique. You could sell 2 different, let's say, cybersecurity products or edutech products that to the naked eye would be the exact same, and they have dramatically different sales cycles because there's so many other factors in play. So a lot of your process has to rely on what you've experienced and how many things didn't go well in terms of your sales pipeline, and then you make your adjustments from there, so you can have a customized sales process that can be applied to specifically your product or service. That's really the answer. But the fundamental problem with all of that is that no one's patient. So all of what I just mentioned takes time, and time is always the hardest one to really convince founders to accept, and to know that it's going to take time to be able to figure out how your product sells at scale so that it has sustainable revenue.
Yes, yes, and the timeline needs to be realistic, and they need to understand. Yes, it's very
But
important.
but everybody loves my product. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it.
Yes, I mean, so my background is technology. Our audience, we talk about this before, and so the um, the fact that just being product oriented, just just knowing your product and assuming others are also knowing 100% is pretty misleading. Even you're just misleading yourself as well, right? So
100%, 100%. And that's one of the more common forefront mistakes that people make,
Mhm,
is that they're leading with their product. They're selling their product. They're not selling a solution to a particular pain,
mhm.
right? Instead of trying to sell you a cheeseburger right now, I first need to figure out if you're hungry. And I also need to figure out the type of foods that you tend to like, right? And then I also need to figure out what time of day you eat. And then also, you know, do you have hot dogs, pizza? Are you like into really healthy food? Before I even start talking about my cheeseburger, I need to understand where I can actually position this cheeseburger to where you will actually purchase it. And very few people will sell their product like, this is a cheeseburger, it's the tastiest cheeseburger, and it's so juicy, and look at the pictures, and look at the cheese on it, look at the cheese melt, and the whole time they're talking to a vegan, and they have no idea. You know, that's one of the most common things as well.
Well, okay, yeah, this is really interesting conversation, and it's also very realistic. I mean, we see it all the time in business, right? Whether that's technology or a product or a service, this type of approaches, and sometimes we experience it. They try to sell us, right? And that is one of the reasons in terms of the marketing. Some marketing channels are really tired, because it's just misused and abused in a way that just you offer something to somebody that you weren't supposed to be talking in the first place. So that approach, like one of them will be just we are going off the script, but just just to support your point. um, for example, the direct mail. So just it's called junk mail, but it's actually very targeted if you can really use it well, right? But they misuse it for over the years. It just called junk mail. So if you got the mail, I mean, that basically that perception actually just became over the years because of these. They weren't supposed to send that mail in the first place. They send it to the wrong prospect and the wrong person in the first place. Just like to your point, offering cheeseburger to a vegan, right? To a vegetarian person, for example.
Yeah,
So this really like shape over the years because of these.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it is the most common, and it can give a lot of false confidence, because a broken clock is right twice a day. So if you get two little wins, you think that that's going to happen ongoing, and usually around month 3 or month 5, within a year, that's when things start to shift, and they don't know why, and it's because the natural inclination to um, confuse marketing with sales. So, marketing can talk about product features and benefits, and this is how great this is how great we are, right? Marketing is supposed to do that, right? But sales is actually supposed to talk about value. You're more like a doctor. Like, imagine if you walk into a doctor's office, and before you said anything, the doctor says, "Look, I have morphine. I have uh, Tylenol. I have Panadol. I have metformin. I also have a little bit of like extra morphine as well." Before you said anything at all, that's not a salesperson. That's not a doctor. That's a drug dealer. And the problem is, what happens in sales these days in terms of a lot of companies is that they're doing more like a drug deal type sell, which is I got this, I got this, I have that, I have all these things. This is what I have. I'm going to give it to you. And people's natural reaction, as you would in any of those scenarios, would say, I'll take a look at it later, or yes, send me an email, or I don't find this something that I even want to look into at this moment. And it's all based on behaviors because they're not actually looking at what a doctor really does, which is a doctor doesn't say anything at all. They just say, so what's been going on? Oh, well, how long has that been an issue for you? And then check your temperature and,
Mhm.
see if you have a fever
Out of
and
discovery, right? Yes.
yeah, like, all right, let's listen to your heart rate. They're doing the diagnosis,
Hmm.
right? And then they say, well, look, I'm not quite sure fully what you may have, but here's some of the things that I can prescribe to you. And then from there, if it's still a problem, let's come back in 5 days and then we will re-examine you for further stuff. And these are individuals that have degrees that we trust to inject fluids in our bodies, right? So clearly that process allows comfort and trust. And so if you met a doctor that did it the other way, that would be terrifying. Right? Oh my God, this person just offered me a bunch of pills. I didn't even say what I had. I just walked out with a bag of it. That's scary. And that's what we're doing a lot of times in the market when it comes to sales, or how people perceive sales to be, which is product dumping and just constant push of this is how great we are. When in reality, it takes a certified, skilled individual to be able to navigate the sell for it to happen at scale.
I like to shift our conversation towards AI a little bit. What do you think about AI, and how do you see the impact of AI on business? And in this particular conversation, how do you see the impact of AI on sales practices, maybe marketing as well, from your point of view?
Well, there's a good and a bad side to it, right? The problem that I see in the AI space right now, in terms of how sales individuals are attempting to use it really badly, by the way, is through it's thinking for them, or they're thinking that it's thinking for them, and their patterns. I mean, everyone's gotten the "I hope this email finds you well" email, right? If you look at every GPT or every AI related email, they're using words that we haven't used for the last 300 years: pivotal, crucial, the ever evolving landscape, all these like phrases that my liberal arts degree would vomit reading, right? Because no one really writes like that. But individuals globally now, they think that that's their ticket. So they're just going to use that tool blindly and push it through. That's the negative that I've seen in terms of the impact of the sales world, is that there's just way more information and outreach going on, and it's extremely low quality and very predictable. Even the formatting, the fonts, I mean, we can see it, right? And we're in this business every day, so we know exactly like, oh, they GPT'd it, so we just don't respond. But when it comes down to the positives of AI, it's the individuals that use it more as a tool, more as an enhancer of an already established skill set, right? They're using it in ways to be able to connect it to automation so that it can bring out more value in terms of being able to scour, let's say, the net and be able to get data points that would be valuable, but it's based on a thinking mind. That is the positive impact, I think, because now one person can engage as if they are a team of 20 because they're able to utilize another brain that's operating on, a billion times a millisecond. That's the good impact. But outside of that, in our sales world, it is really just a tool. It's just a tool at the moment, because until they have AI buyers, you're not going to have AI sellers.
Yes, that was going to be my next question. Will AI replace salespeople or sales professionals in the future? But you just answered it yourself, so I'm going to take it back before I ask it.
Well, no, I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, when you have AI buyers, then we can all go on holiday and then just let our AIs talk to the salesperson, the buying, and then they make all the decisions to be able to purchase, and we'll just go from there. We'll just trust the trajectory that our buying app says, and base all of our business revenue on that, I highly doubt anytime soon. But I
Hmm.
do think there will be versions of that going forward. I mean, AI is already vetting salespeople and their value propositions, which is good, right? It's
Hmm.
able to separate different types of businesses, whether it's legitimate or not. So those things are good. But yeah, I don't think AI is going to be able to replace salespeople. It's a good hot button, it's a good headline, but um, being in this jungle for so long, sales is still a very human to human moment, and it requires a lot of skill.
Yes, it's funny you mentioned that. I had a similar conversation weeks before in the podcast with one of our guests who happens to be the expert in AI, especially coming from the technical side. And I asked the same question: what's going to be the future in terms of AI? Which jobs will disappear, and which ones will stay? So the gist of that conversation was any profession, any occupation happens to be human to human, addressing human needs with the human touch and having that connection emotionally, as well as being close to humans in terms of services, gonna survive at least for a longer term. That was the gist of the conversation. And sales happens to be emotional, happens to be touching people, communicating with people in different forms, B2B or B2C. Then it looks like AI will be a tool that we need to use cautiously as professionals. By anytime soon, are we going to be seeing AI replacing sales professionals? Not anytime soon, but it's going to be a tool right now. That's how it looks like it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, what's fun about this is that eventually AI will dominate a very large piece of real estate in the sales world, right? But the individuals who do have that background, that history, that skill set, you will be able to tell and see the difference. So the higher quality um,
Hmm.
will be able to show really quickly. So it will swing kind of both ways a little bit here, where you might see a lot more AI influence in the sales space or a lot more usage, but the individuals who actually AI is not going to be able to teach you how to be a good salesperson based on a lot of bad experiences. It can't
Hmm.
give you bad experiences, right? To be a
Hmm.
better person. So unless you're relying on it to have a conversation on its own, but at the end of the day, there is an element of that human reaction that really raises the quality and will make it very apparent that it's not a actual person doing it.
Well, over the years, you have decades of professional experience. Have you had any role models, any mentors who help you shape your career path?
Tons. I mean, of course, not to be too cliche, my father is a huge role model, superintendent of schools in Chicago. Um, I've always looked to history. I'm a big history buff. So a lot of my role models are icons of history, Mansa Musa being one of them. Um, but in terms of mentors, I was actually very fortunate in my early sales career to have around three mentors. One in particular is actually a published author, Kyle Haggerty. He was the person who gave me kind of my first crack at sales in the tech space in Singapore. And that was when I first came over. So that was a direct mentor. He's still my mentor and advisor on Consig till this day, even though I stopped working for him, ended up going to Google and all that stuff. But he's definitely been around the entire time. But also professional mentors as well, that I've kind of picked up along the way.
If there is one key career lesson that you learned the hard way, what would it be?
That will be mentioned in my book next year. Working title, guys, but
Okay, that's
I
great.
just finished my book. It's in editing now,
Mhm.
with an editor in the UK, and that's one of the things that I mentioned in my book. Um, as a salesperson, work for your sales career, work for your sales stats, don't work for a company. And what I mean by that is definitely work for a company. I mean, you need to get a job at a company, but oftentimes you can waste a lot of years working to impress the company. That we need to go off of, how the company would perceive you positively or negatively. When the reality is that you should see yourself as a salesperson, as an athlete, right? An athlete that can be traded to other teams. So, how are your statistics? How are you pacing to target? How many targets have you attained, beaten, exceeded? What were the percentages of how much you exceeded your targets? For how many quarters? How long were you in the company? What are some things that you learned in terms of sales tactics? What are some of the practices over here that you don't like in the organization? These are all skill sets and weaponry that you need to have in your sales career, which is your sales career, not your career at X company or Y company. Because that's usually where people get it confused. And that's something that I think people learn when they're older, and they should probably consider adopting that much younger. And I think they'll be better performers, they'll be better staff members, and also they will be able to not be so hard on themselves when things get tough.
Is there any book, a show, a movie that help you shape your career perspective over the years?
Quite a few movies. I will tell you my favorite movie, which is Layer
Okay.
Cake with Daniel Craig. I just love the concept of just kind of how that movie was set up and operates, and that's one of my like favorite movies, just in general. But I would say that when it comes to books, there's a variety. But I actually read historical books. I don't read business books actually. Um, whenever I'm having a bad quarter or like a bad day or a really tough sales time, sometimes you can always reflect and say, is this worse than probably what Napoleon was going through at my age when he was going through the Swiss Alps at 4 in the morning? No, I think it's way worse for him, actually. And you start reading these historical figures and what they're going through. You're like, this isn't so bad. I mean, compared to, yeah, everybody was struggling. Yeah, Swiss Alps, pretty bad at that time. These are things that I kind of look to. I'm a pretty avid reader of history and a lot of emperors and things like that, and really getting in perspective the concept of, hey, look, everybody has had a tough time, um, and how do you kind of persevere beyond that tough time so that you're able to make it happen. Also, big fan of Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. That's definitely like a daily reminder read and things like that I kind of go through to be able to put things in perspective. And those things definitely balance me, but definitely no business books or sales books, because I always feel like that's angled to an industry or the author in
Mhm.
terms of like what they are telling you to do. If they give you a methodology, that type of stuff is a bit questionable.
Well, what are your biggest passions and interests outside of work?
Well, my dog, who's in the back, you probably will see her in the back of the recording. Definitely spending time with my dog. My dog and my Kindle and my partner are my three major priorities out here in life. Also, I'm a big brunch fan and avid traveler. One of the advantages of being in Singapore is that I get to travel all throughout Southeast Asia all the time. And then I get to, of course, I have to go to Europe. My offices in Europe and offices in the US. But it's always good to, land in a new airport or an airport that you haven't been in a while, and make your way to a hotel, and just knowing that you're going to be seeing the sights, or having good food and meeting interesting people.
Well, sometimes in business, there are challenging times. How to stay motivated and inspired in times of challenges and difficulties at work?
Um, Understand why you're there. If you're doing a job for a salary, well, that's about where it starts and stops. And that's a first sign of burnout, depression, and no passion, right? It's because you're only doing it for the money, right? Or doing it because the company's name is popular, but you really don't know why you're there. You really don't know what you're trying to do. Figure out something that you like, that you really attach yourself to, and you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Well, as I'm mentioned before, we have actually business-minded listeners and viewers in the American Business Podcast. And some of our viewers are next generation business professionals. They are entering to the job market. What would be your career advice for the next generation business professionals who are just entering to the job market nowadays?
Sure. Well, number one, the first thing I said was work for your personal idea of your career, not for the companies that you work for mentally. Work for those companies, but always keep in mind, keep your own notes of your accomplishments and things like that, and not always seeking approval. I mean, if you staying in and you get, praises and things like that, that's amazing. But that shouldn't be your main goal, because your identity becomes the company that you work for. Your identity isn't your own. But the first thing I'd say, if you're just getting into the job market, is get into the job market. That's it. Start working. If you're in business, business comes. If you're in business, you will excel. If you're in business, you will get skill sets and you will be able to grow. It doesn't really matter if it's a large company or a small company. I've seen people go from very small companies to huge companies to large exec roles. And I've seen people who've had the big roles in the world and they kind of just lost it and went down into smaller companies. So those all interchange. So people tend to get hung up on size of company, revenue of company, and type of company. But really, what you need to do is just be in business. You need to be in our case, in sales. Just start selling. Get into a company and start selling, even if it's a cold caller role or whatever. It doesn't matter, because ultimately you're going to get skill sets and things are only going to go upward as soon as you start. And as soon as you start the right way, with the right mindset, not expecting the package with the limo. Well, we don't do limos these days. I'm dating myself. But with the Toyota Alphard vans and all that stuff, everybody wants the package. Everybody wants the corporate card. That's great. That fades off really quickly, because are you actually good at what you do? And a lot of people have that. They're not really good at what they do because they didn't put the time in. So the key thing to focus on is being in business and start honing those skills. Look at your career separately as an individual process. What did you learn? How often are you reflecting? That's what's going to be key.
For those who like to be in touch with you, continue this conversation, also learn about your organization and services, what will be the best way to be in touch with you?
Our website is full of all of it. We have so many landing pages. I think you guys would be exhausted. It's konsyg.com, consig. So that's konsyg.com. You can definitely book us through there as well. And you'd be surprised. It might actually be me who talks to you directly. If you guys mention this podcast, I'll make sure it's me. How about that?
That sounds great. Well, William, thank you so much for this conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I know it's late in Singapore, and thank you very much for being with us in that late hour there.
All good. It's totally normal. We're used to it over here doing the late hours when you're in Asia. So
Yeah, that sounds great. And please drop your email address in our private chat so we can also be in touch and we can have a follow-up podcast episodes in the future.
100%. Thank you for having me, Kevin.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much, and I wish you a great week.
See you.
All right, thank you so much. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, we had a great episode today. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, as I always say, you always learn something new in the American Business Podcast episodes, because we invite experts just like William Play, and we always learn from the expert. And there's always something new to learn. That's how we continuously improve ourselves as business professionals. So this is really important. In that sense, I hope you enjoyed the episode and you learned something new. Would you like to be a guest in the American Business Podcast? You can send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. We welcome it, and you can send us an email. We are very responsive to those emails, and you can reach out to us and let us know if you'd like to be a guest and your expertise in terms of subject matter in business, and we'll be happy to have you as a guest speaker. Also, we welcome sponsors and advertising in the American Business Podcast. For that, you can also send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. I also invite you to our website, americanpodcast.tv, for our upcoming podcast episodes. You can see our schedule that we post. You can also learn more about the American Business Podcast and the team and how we are working hard to bring you these informative content. And we update our website on daily basis. As you know, a couple of months ago, we got the YouTube Silver Award because we passed 100,000 YouTube subscribers. Now the American Business Podcast is an award-winning business podcast and more influential than before. We truly appreciate that you support us, you listen to us, you watch the American Business Podcast episodes. And if you haven't done so, please get into our YouTube channel. This is our QR code right here on the screen. If you scan this, it'll take you to our YouTube channel and you can subscribe and be part of the YouTube subscription, as well as you can also be part of our family. That's how we look at the American Business Podcast subscribers. And if you are feeling more generous, you can share your thoughts and you can put your thoughts in our comment box, in the chat box in the YouTube channel. We truly appreciate your interactions and your feedback as well. Well, that's great. What else is happening? As you know, our online business networking event is coming up. That is scheduled for November 21st. And we put together this online business networking event. It is because as part of our mission in the American Business Podcast, we share these informative content. At the same time, we help you connect to other business professionals. That's why we put together this online networking event. And what is cool about it is also online and you'll be live on the American Business Podcast. So you'll be networking online with other business professionals. And at the same time, you'll be on the American Business Podcast in front of thousands of YouTube subscribers of the American Business Podcast. That's very exciting and unique. I hope you can join us. I have the QR code on the screen. If you scan the QR code, you can sign up and you can join us on November 21st, 2025 at 10 a.m. That's Eastern time zone. And let's remember, New Year is coming and business networking is important. Connect with other business professionals. If you're not doing business networking, you're not in business. It's just that simple. So the Connection America Business Alliance, powered by the American Business Podcast, is addressing just that need. You can connect with other business professionals to expand and grow your business. And last month, we started our membership program, as you know. I hope you join us. We have different membership programs with different benefits as a token of our appreciation of your support. When you scan this QR code on the screen, you can see the options of the American Business Podcast membership. And you can pick the type of membership that you like. And please be a member and support the American Business Podcast. We truly appreciate it. And we keep updating and also growing American Business Podcast membership as well. With your help and support, it's going to be even bigger than before. If you like to learn Excel and other Microsoft business software systems in a fun and engaging way, consider Ms. Excel. I have the QR code for the Ms. Excel. When you scan this QR code, it'll take you to their website. You can see their teaching schedule and calendar. Pick the course that you like. Before you check out, make sure to use the discount code from the American Business Podcast. It's ABP 2025. If you are in the market for ERP software system, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning for those listeners who are not familiar, consider iTech Consulting. iTech is specialized in SAP and Oracle ERP software systems. They are specialized in implementation, configuration, training, and support services. They are specialized in these services. And when you scan this QR code, it'll take you to their website and you can learn more about their services and be in touch. When you are in touch with them, make sure you heard about them from the American Business Podcast. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to having you in the coming The American Business Podcast episodes. The American Business Podcast is the voice of American business. Thank you very much and have a great week.